Hey guys, it's Charlie, and you are watching Tuesday on the Pagan Perspective, and I'm subbing for Cara because she is so lucky out of the country. So, I've literally tried filming, I've probably spent an hour trying to film this video. The last one that I did was pretty good. I could have worked with it, but it was 20 minutes long, and I'm going to try to keep it more concise than that. So, anyway, on we go. This topic comes from Explosive Orange, and what I'm going to do is there's an article on a website, and I'm going to post it in the description box below. Before you watch the remainder of this video, I ask that you please go and read the article so you know where I'm coming from when I'm talking about what I'm talking about. Go do that now. Okay, so I'm assuming you've read the article, and the questions are what are my opinions on the issue of people who are correcting other people who are open-minded and to the point where they just accept everything, or people who are narrow-minded and they don't accept anything and they constantly feel the need to correct people. What are my opinions on that, and have I witnessed anything like this in the pagan community? I'm going to start with the second question. Have I witnessed anything? Of course I have. I think we all have, especially if you read comments that people leave on videos, if you are members of any online groups, any of the Facebook groups that I'm sure many of us are part of. You're always going to run into this. And I think, as far as my opinion goes, my opinion really is that I've definitely been in both spots. I have corrected people on either misinformation or inaccurate information, whatever you want to call it. And I've also been on the receiving end where people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense. That's not even true. So I know both sides. But the point that I think where there's the disconnect is that the approach of where people are coming from in how they are coming about either correcting people or what have you. The author of the website stated, I was very respectful, I was very polite, I thought that people would be appreciative that I was pointing out an error, and they all just jumped on me even though I was very polite. Well, I think we all can agree that text is extremely easy to misread. You don't have body language, you don't have tone of voice, you can only read the text there plain, very dry, very blunt. And maybe this person's intentions were to be extremely polite, but maybe others were either in a bad mood when they read it, or they had just read somebody else being rude, and so they had that particular tone in their mind as they were reading this particular author's words on correcting the error. But the important thing to remember is that text is extremely difficult or extremely easy to misinterpret. And from a sarcastic person, like me being as sarcastic as I am, that's a challenge for me, that's a struggle for me, because I'll say things with such dryness that people think that I'm being crabby. And that doesn't even go just for like text, that can even go for my tone of voice, because I can be so dry that people think I'm being serious. So you always have to kind of take that into consideration, try to give people the benefit of the doubt, like they're not trying to be a dick. If it continues on, then maybe like, okay, listen, you're coming off kind of hostile. Are you really irritated with me right now? Because the way I'm reading your words sounds like you're irritated. And just kind of clearing the air. I think that one of the biggest things about text communication is that it's easily misinterpreted, and there's a miscommunication there when you're communicating through text. And anytime that someone misunderstands anything, like you could be having what you think is the nicest conversation, but if somebody misunderstands you, then it's all out the window. So you have to clear up that misunderstanding right away. So basically my opinion on this is, if somebody has what you feel is misinformation or inaccurate information, approaching them in a very non-threatening sort of way. And an example for this is, actually I'm going to use Annie, our very own Mirth and Reverence. And around Yule, I had done a video on Yule, and like the topic was Yule, and I said, you know, for me, this is my new year, because it doesn't resonate with me to have Samhain be my new year, because it doesn't coincide with anything in nature, doesn't make sense to me at all. And Annie, in her infinite wisdom and extreme patience and kindness, sent me a private message, and she's like, Charlie, you know, I noticed that you did a topic where you were kind of questioning this and you didn't really know why it was like this or whatever. With my Celtic background and practices, this is why. And she explained to me the reasoning, the logic behind the Witch's New Year being on Samhain, and it made so much sense. Somebody else could have come at me in a very threatening way, being like, how did you not know this? You've been practicing for this long. I can't believe that you would even put a video out there. You sounded so rude, blah, 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 which I don't think I sounded rude, but someone could have misinterpreted it that way. And because Annie approached it in such a different way, a very non-threatening, I understand where you're coming from, but here's where I'm coming from. This is because that is my belief, and this is why I believe it. It was very much easy for me to digest, and I was very appreciative. And it was even now, people will send me, they'll see a video where I mention it in another video, and they'll say, hey, can you forward me what Annie told you? You know, can you tell me what was the reasoning? Because I felt the way you felt before too. And I'm, yeah, gladly. This is why people celebrate Samhain as a Witch's New Year. But had it come about in a different way, I may not have ever known, because somebody could have just been like, that it just would have, there would have automatically been a wall up here, and I wouldn't have absorbed any of it. So when you're approaching people to let them know that you don't agree with them, or that you're unsure of where they're coming from as far as their beliefs go, do it in a very non-threatening way, because if you don't, the wall's going to go up, there's going to be a steel curtain, and you guys are going to do this, and you're never going to get anywhere. And the whole purpose of networking with pagans is to learn more and grow and extend your friendship base, and meet people who believe all different sorts of things. On the flip side, when is being open-minded too much open-minded? Like, when do you just, like how far can you take it? And for me, personally, I do come from the ethos that if it feels good, if it feels and resonates with your soul and what you believe internally to be true, then do it. But that's why I'm eclectic pagan, and why I'm not Gardnerian Wiccan, or why I'm not Christian, or why I'm not any other specific. I'm eclectic pagan, and I pull from many different pagan practices, not all just Wiccan, and that's why that's my personal practice. That being said, I don't get on forums and say, these are the correspondences for these. This is this and this is that. Because I know that my practice is very unique to me, very personal to me, and not everyone's going to agree with that, because based on their experiences, it's going to be different. But at what point does the whole let them experience life as they want to experience life thing, like, at what point is that going too far? The example that was used, the Jesus example, somebody believing that they're Jesus, that example I thought was a little bit extreme, but it made sense. It was enough to kind of open my eyes and be like, okay, I get where this person is coming from. When it comes to things that are very blatantly like scientific fact, at that point, I think that's when you kind of stop. That's when the experience, how you experience it, can't. I mean, if somebody says, in my experience, how I experience hemlock is that it's really good for migraines if taken orally. Okay, no, if somebody got online and said that, I would be like, wait, and I would do it publicly too, because that is going to kill you. You will die. But at what point is, like, if somebody wants to use hemlock or another poisonous herb as far as like meditating with it or something like that, okay, proceed with caution, but I'm not going to, and I'd probably let people know, proceed with caution, but I'm not going to, let me use cinnamon, okay? So cinnamon, one thing that I use cinnamon for, and one thing that I've seen correspondences in books for cinnamon is that it's good for money, for drawing prosperity. Say I get online and I post that, you know, like one of the correspondences or one of the attributes of cinnamon is prosperity, whatever. And somebody comes on and says, you know, cinnamon isn't like that at all. Well, some people might not experience cinnamon. Maybe somebody had an extremely bad experience, a bad life experience with cinnamon. Maybe the day that they filed bankruptcy, maybe somebody brought them over a bunch of like cinnamon cookies or something. So they're going to associate, based on their life experience, cinnamon with having no money. So you have to take that all into consideration. So at what point is it too far? I think that's really up to individual people. I'm the first to admit, like, hey, my practice is not strict, set in stone, this is how it is. It's non-dogmatic, because I left other religions because I didn't like the dogma. So why would I bring that into my current practice? The other thing that I think affects this very greatly is I don't like to generalize, and I think pagans it's such a diverse group, we cannot generalize pagans. But one thing that I think I can say that is common amongst, I'm pulling a number out of my ass, 90% of pagans that I've encountered, is the way we think about things. Pagans are not people who can just follow things blindly and just go about their day or about their spiritual practice or their religion just taking people's words on things. Pagans are people who, you give me something, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to examine it, I'm going to take it apart, and I'm going to put it back together, and I'm going to figure out different ways to put it back together, because that's what drew us to this path. That's what drew us to explore these things and to continue to explore. If we weren't like that, even if we were raised pagan, we might leave this particular path to go somewhere else where maybe it's a little bit more structured. So I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that we're very different thinkers, very outside of the box thinkers, with a bit of critical thinking as well, and extremely well-read people, intelligent people. And this is a compliment to all pagans out there. Am I saying that people of other faiths lack any of these qualities? Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is that I think that kind of the common denominator amongst pagans is that kind of gotta have our hands in the cookie jar type of thing about us. And it's not going to be all pagans, but I think a large quantity of people who practice any form of paganism, that's the type of people that they are. And going along with that, being that type of person, I think that also makes us passionate people. We're very passionate. And because pagans generally are more spiritual than they are religious, they're more focused and growing internally with their external environment rather than strictly externally. Because it's a lot of it has to do with internal, as far as like even the psyche and all that goes. Because of that, those things are taken extremely personally. So if somebody says, like flat out just says, like you're not doing it right, people take that to heart. Like you take it personally, like, whoa, you just completely offended my practice and I'm irritated now. So as long as people go about correcting in a very non-threatening, positive, just a non-threatening way, I think everything will be fine. But what I think happens is the instant that somebody sees any form of what they consider misinformation, whether it's something as black and white as mistaking a god for a goddess, or whether it's something as subjective as the attributes of cinnamon for prosperity, or the correlation between cinnamon and prosperity, whatever it is. I lost what was the beginning part of my sentence? What the fuck was I talking about? So what, I lose my train of thought because I've got so much going on up here. Whatever it is, hold on, let me get my shit together. Well, anyway, I can't think of what I was actually going to say, but whether it's one of those two things, whatever it is, whatever bucket it falls into, if you don't go about it in a non-threatening sort of way, you're just going to be butting heads with people. And I think that, I remember. I think that some people are so, that's what it was. I remember, okay. People get so offended. Like this person, to them it was like, it was a blatant error. It's not a matter of subjectivity at all. It's like you made an error. That's like saying that an apple is a vegetable. That's how this person feels. And because you made an error and because it's tied so much to my personal practice, because I practice ancient Aztec practices, it offends me, and I'm going to tell you that you're not right, and that this is how it is. But on the receiving end, the person who created the document and all the people who are reading the document and find it useful, because that's their spirituality, they're taking it personal too. So the big thing is, as long as both sides can kind of just calm down and maybe just take that passionate fizz down a little bit and talk, in a very respectful manner to one another, I think that will kind of quell a little bit of the I'm right, you're wrong type of, whatever. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the topic. And I've got so much more that I could say on this topic, but not enough time, and I don't know how long this video is going on, and it's already 8:30 at night, and I gotta get this edited and up for you guys. So, what are your thoughts? If you've read the article, or even if you haven't read the article, even though I wish you would read the article, what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments below. Have you experienced this? The one thing that I will say is, I personally disagree with people going on and just publicly being like, no, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right, I'm an expert on this and that's wrong. And doing that on a lot of different videos and a lot of different forums and a lot of different Facebook groups, because to me that doesn't show I want to help you learn. To me that shows I'm insecure and I need to make myself feel like I know more than other people. So be aware, for one, how you are reacting to other people's words, and be aware, secondly, of how you are coming off to other people, because how you're coming off to other people is going to affect how they receive you. And that's not me just being like, oh, let everyone experience what they will. That's just fact. Like, that's just, if you're coming off as being kind of a bitch, people are automatically going to have that steel curtain up and they're not going to be receptive to anything you say. So anyway, I will talk to you guys all later, and I love you. Blessed be.